All right, if you're a veteran over 40 and you haven't filed for VA claims yet, you're not too late, but you are running out of some advantages. In this video, I'm going to explain why it's so important to start looking at potential VA claims that you could easily win and why filing now, even if you think it's too late, can make a huge difference in your life and how it's actually not that hard to get approved with the right amount of evidence. Now listen, it's not about money, but it is about protecting your options and getting the rating that you deserve and the benefits as well. So probably the biggest myth that holds veterans back that are 40 years old or older is that it's just been too long. You've been out of service for too long and you can't file. But I mean, quite honestly, there's really no deadline to file. You can be 90 years old and still file for a direct service claim. Time isn't anywhere in there on whether or not, you have to file within a certain amount of time. Sure, there's presumptive claims out there that might disqualify you, but time alone doesn't disqualify you. In fact, many veterans over 40, to include myself, have filed claims without, having service treatment records or without having gone to the doctor while I was in service. And, even, decades later and still win their claims. And now that the PACT Act has been approved, it makes you eligible for so much more that you just might not be aware of. So, sure, it's going to be hard if you're over 40 and you've been out for 20 years. The medical records that you're going to try and retrieve will be a little bit harder to locate. The good thing is if you're 40, there's a good chance that your records are still in the system somewhere. If you're, much older than that, it's possible that they've been lost. There are cases out there where records have been, unable to locate, but there are ways around it. I mean, you can write a personal statement and explain the situation and keep documentation from your attempts to locate records. So just by simply not having the records that you used to have because they're lost, it doesn't make it impossible to do this. I know that some of your service records, may be incomplete or just really difficult to find. We don't necessarily have easy access to them anymore. Or if you just didn't go to sick call or you didn't see a doctor while you're in service, I know that those make this a challenging thing. And I know that it will require you to work a little bit harder at getting these things and to document these things. And I know that, your memory won't be as good and you may not remember all the details, but, it's still going to be worth it. It's still going to be possible. And if you look at the different types of compensation for each rating out there and the benefits that you could get and even some of the benefits that your family can get, it makes all of this worth it. So, if you're over 40, yes, it will be a little bit difficult to overcome some of the challenges, but it won't be impossible. Now, one of the best things about those of us who are over 40 is that there are presumptive conditions that no matter how long we've been out, we can still apply for these and they'll be presumed to be approved by the VA. In other words, they're presumed to be connected to service. Some examples of this, the most common one is here, ringing in the ears. Almost every veteran could apply for this if they have ringing in the ears, so long as they had loud noise exposures. The PACT Act left a whole bunch of conditions that are claimable. So, chronic sinusitis, asthma, rhinitis, a whole bunch of cancers. So if you haven't looked at that list to see what's out there, if you haven't looked at any of the presumptive lists that are out there, you should absolutely do that to see if you qualify for any of those. Now, secondary conditions are also another one that's very important for veterans that are over 40. And the reason I say this is because when you got out of the military, there's a good chance that you did have some conditions claimed, even if you claimed them later on in life. But if you haven't looked at your current rating and you haven't looked at your current status for your VA disability, there could be some secondary conditions that have been caused by things that you already have that's already connected to your service. It's important to know that, if you did, even if you've been going to the VA for treatment, and the VA is aware of, a condition that you have, they're not going to start evaluating that condition for you. They're not going to look. You have to initiate that. So you almost have to know that you have a condition that likely could have been caused by something that you're already connected for. Now, how do you do that? Obviously, you're not a doctor, so you may not even know. But, if you do a quick evaluation of yourself and you think about all the things that you have going on, and, you already know what your service connected for, you may be able to draw a line, a potential line, right? Like you may be able to theorize that, this current condition you're dealing with may have been caused by something that you're already connected for. And if you do, and you could get the right medical evidence, you could claim that as a secondary condition. And those things really add up. Now, one thing that I've done for you, I created like a 5-page worksheet that has a bunch of just potential, or a bunch of service-connected conditions with a bunch of potential secondaries. I created that for free. You could also just Google that online. But if you want that, if you want mine for free, just type in secondary in the comment section below, and I'll get you like a swipe file. Again, it's not every single condition, but it's a bunch of common ones, and it might help you by just simply looking at the list and saying, hey, I've got this, and this is service connected, and I also have one of the conditions listed down in there. Now, just keep in mind that list, or any list that you get off the internet, is not going to just be true for every single thing. I mean, you need to still be able to show medical evidence, but this is a good starting point. But again, if you're 40 and you don't if you don't have that original condition claimed, like something that you currently have right now that could be connected to service, you won't even be able to claim those secondaries that could be connected to that. And if you don't evaluate your current conditions, you could miss out on potential secondary conditions. So it's very important, because secondary conditions, although they're complex, they can really increase your overall rating. So now that you know that we as veterans over 40 should be looking at our status and should be filing, and we know that it's not too late, what do you got to do to get this done? First, I asked you to just evaluate your current conditions for increases. There will be some, if you're connected for something, there's a very good chance that over the years that connected condition that you've had has gotten worse. And if it has, look in 38 CFR or Google that condition and see what the rating criteria is for the next bump in the percentage. So for instance, if you're at a 10% for something, what's the 30% criteria? And do you meet that criteria? Do your symptoms match that criteria? If they do, consider putting in for an increase. You could get your whole overall rating increase. Now, I will caution you that once you open the door or poke the bear, you could get decreased. So make sure that you're working with a VSO or an accredited agent, someone that can help you understand that. Be educated before you do that. Check out the presumptive list. Do you qualify for anything? And if you do, could you file a claim for that? And would the rating that you get from that claim, would that increase your overall rating? If yes is the answer, then consider filing for a presumptive claim. But again, if you poke the bear, you're opening up your claim. So make sure that you're becoming very educated on this and working with somebody that can help you. Do you have any potential secondary conditions? Again, I said that I have that worksheet. It's a secondary worksheet to help you brainstorm whether or not you have a secondary condition to a current conducted condition. If you want that, just type in secondary in the comments below, and I will send you a free swipe file. Otherwise, just Google conditions that you currently have. Lastly, did you have any current conditions that you can service connect that you haven't already? Now, this is where it's going to be a little bit more difficult, but if you do, you could get you could be able to connect these back to your service.